The ground-shaking crash signaled the death of an ancient pine, one of the pillars supporting the fence of tree-thick vines White Rook's people had shaped and tended for generations. The outer perimeter was coming down. They could expect no assistance from any king. Oper Eightfingers had shown little interest in defending the border with Irisen, despite the proximity of his capital, and there were those who said he was no true king for this and other reasons. There had been a time when Trollheim declared the village part of its territory, but Castellan Freyr Darkwine had not sent his black ravens so far south since the start of the interregnum. The men and women of White Rook stood alone against the invaders. The village women abandoned the birch grove to guard against whatever might come through the breach. Elisif's hands itched for the grip of a weapon as she watched the women scramble into position. She scrubbed her palms against the rough wool of her skirt and tried to push the battle lust aside. She knew her place was here. Soon she would be an elder sister, with all the responsibility that role entailed. But the frenzy of battle preparations proved too tempting to resist. Elisif lingered at the window, watching as men rolled barrels of Vajarik, a distilled spirit strong enough to blind a Lenorm, into the stone-paved trench that formed a barrier around the village. Warriors took up positions 100 paces behind the fire moat, weapons in hand and tall wooden shields lying ready on the ground before them. Elisif's eyes brightened with anticipation. She'd never seen a shield wall in battle. According to the bard's tales, few foes could overcome a barrier formed of Ulfin warriors. Spear warriors formed up a dozen paces behind the front line of warriors, weapons in hand. Several of the older boys dragged bundles of spears from the weapon huts. One had already taken his place beside his warrior. 4 weapons held ready to pass: 2 slim throwing spears, a sturdy pike, and a short spear for hand-to-hand fighting. In the center of the village clearing, behind the warriors and their boys, 3 old men fed the bonfire. The storm fought them with wind-driven sleet and sudden gusts that dove down to throttle the leaping flames or hurl them up into the thatched roofs of the surrounding houses. But the huge fire pit continued the blaze, and the circle of stone pillars supporting the conical roof and chimney of the village center kept the wood dry enough to burn. Buckets of pitch stood near the fire pit, bristling with the shafts of fire arrows. Behind the pit, more warriors gathered, readying weapons ranging from swords to pitchforks to long-handled torches. Any child-stealing winterfolk who came through the sundered fences would have to run a gauntlet of fire and iron before they reached any of the vulnerable children or mothers. Everyone else in the village, spearman or shield maiden, would die before they would let that happen. Nor would those who survived the ordeal find the village children easy to capture. Atop every house was a loft with narrow windows nestled in the gables of each steep roof. The shutters had been flung open to reveal boys and maidens too young to wield sword or spear or battle-axe, but no less deadly with a bow. Elisif glanced toward the ladder that led to her family's loft. A sturdy bow of well-seasoned yew awaited her there. Her gaze shifted to the maiden's sword over the hearth. A sigh of longing and frustration sang through her teeth. Her mother's first weapon, despite village custom, would never be hers. Ulfin warriors were famously tall and strong, but Elisif had always been small for her age, and seemed destined to remain so. No one of her stature would ever become a shield maiden. Never mind that the only boy who'd ever dared to taunt her about it had walked with a limp from full moon to well past new moon. "Elisif, come away." A pained gasp cut the admonition short. Elisif spun toward the bed. Her mother's night robe, already damp with sweat, was drenched with more ominous stains. Young as she was, Elisif knew what this meant. The babe must come soon, or mother and child would both perish. Elisif knelt at the foot of her mother's bed. "I will catch the babe, and I will care for it," she said. "This I swear. Now do your part." The ceremonial words.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.